Jackson.
Yeah, I hear you. I can hear you.
All right, so I think we got it. I think we're live. So it is a huge honor to say what's up to the one and only Mic Geronimo.
Yo, wow, thank you.
Yeah.
And
That's
in
Had to
house,
pull it out,
That's
man.
what's up. That's what's up. I appreciate it, bro. That's some real shit. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the-
my God. You allowed to curse on here? I'm sorry
yeah,
about
sure, go ahead.
that.
Say whatever you want, man.
And
All right,
also in
that's
the
what's
house,
up.
I
It's
need
good to
to
see y'all, man.
good to see you too. And I also want to introduce my guest co-host Tal Elefant. He's been on the show a few times, but I think it's the first time we get to do something like this together.
Yeah,
So
for sure, for sure.
That's
With
what's
Mike
up.
here,
I
it's an
appreciate
honor,
y'all
man.
having me. Likewise, bro. Thank you for having me.
thank you for being here. I mean, we have a lot to talk about because we spent
Yeah.
a lot of these past few weeks since we talked before that. To go back and listen to the classic albums, see other interviews. So a lot to
Cool.
talk about. But let's start from the beginning. Growing up, who did you used to listen to?
Oh, man. I think I listen to everybody I could. The earliest hip hop I could remember listening to was probably Run DMC and T La Rock and LL Cool J. As I got older, Rakim and Eric B definitely. Cool G Rap was heavy. I used to listen to him all the time. Slick Rick I would listen to all the time. KRS-One, BDP. A lot of people, Marley Marl, the Juice Crew, all of them, and then I always loved rock, so I would listen to like Van Halen and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden. Um, as I
That's
got
sort of
older,
unusual.
I mean, it may sound that way, but if you think about it, in my era, that was like when MTV was first, coming about, and you didn't really have a lot of music videos. You damn sure didn't have channels to see it. And then when it was hip hop, you really didn't get to see it. So we grew up on like the Police and Sting and Pat Benatar and David Bowie and Michael Jackson and anything that you could catch, that was coming through on MTV, until hip hop started to get its own outlet. So I'm influenced by everything, bro. With me, as long as I could get something from it, it didn't matter who made it or what genre it was. If I liked it, I liked it.
That's hip hop.
Exactly.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
And you were also, before you were emceeing, you were also DJing, right? You started.
Yeah, that's actually how I started. Yeah, that's how I started. I had Technique 1200s and Concord needles and my gem sound speakers, my Gemini mixer, all of that. And I would spend like every day of my life going to the record store, buying 12 singles and,
In the
blending, cut,
crates.
scratch. Yeah, and then like I grew up around Large Professor. He was like my big brother. So just being influenced by being around him, that's really where the rapping kind of came into play. I would just do it to bug out, but the more I did it, my friends would be like, yo, you kind of sound like you know what you're doing. You should take it a little more serious. And then I did, and eventually it just happened. I stopped DJing and started rhyming. The rest is history.
By the way, one of our listeners is asking, what's your first rap song that you knew by heart? Do you remember that?
That I knew by heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably "It's Yours" by T La Rock. That was probably like the first thing I would leave my house, like when I knew the words out, commentating, illustrating, destruction giving, adjective expert. So I would just be bopping to the elevator singing that. That's probably the first one I knew by heart.
Complex lyrics to memorize for the first one, but that's amazing. I mean, he was always considered to be very complex, right, Tilo Rock?
Yeah, I mean, but it was just that beat, and then he said all that like all that technical stuff, but then the hook was just party people of the universe is yours. You know, he just made it simple in the hook, so it was just lit from the minute it dropped to the minute he rhymed to the whole joint.
Yeah. And how did you get your stage name, Mic Geronimo?
Oh man. Actually, it was kind of a mixture of things. I had a friend in school named Fudd, and whenever the deans or the school security or whatever would be like, Mr. McDermott, you got to go to the dean's office, he would just be like, oh, Geronimo, and the whole lunchroom would start laughing, or the bus would start laughing, whoever was on the bus. So I always remembered that. And my first name was Mike, so I was just like, instead of me spelling it Mike, let me spell it like microphone, and it just stuck with me, and that was it.
And I know Shit's Real is the first rap song that you ever actually recorded, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can, can
First
you tell?
time I ever went in the studio, first time I ever wrote a song, and the first time I ever recorded what I sounded like. So kind of crazy. Shout
And
out
you
to
did it.
Irv Gotti.
Shout
Yeah,
out.
that's what I was at. I was about to ask. You did it with Irv Gotti. So how did you hook up with him?
Well, Gotti knew a good friend of mine that I went to high school with named Chucky Madden. And Chuck was a popular DJ in Queens. So, like I said, I was DJing and I was rhyming. And I guess somebody in school, a couple of my friends in school, told Chuck that I knew how to spit. So I started going to his house on the weekends. And as it turns out, I guess he told Irv about me. And then he put me in a talent show. I had no idea that I was even going to perform. Like, I just went to Chuck's crib one day and he was like, yo, you going to perform? And I was like, all right, cool. You know, so we went and did this show at this spot in Southside, Jamaica, on Liverpool. And Irv came, and I guess I did good because everyone else that was spitting that night, like they threw bottles at them or records or whatever they had, they was throwing at the stage. So I finished rhyming, and ain't nobody throw nothing, and it was mad quiet. And I just heard somebody like, "Yo, you got another song?" And I was like, "Nah." So I started freestyling, but the crowd liked it. And then after that, when I got off stage, Irv just was talking to me, but I was faded, I was high, enjoying the vibe. So I just started robbing in his ear some more. And that's when he had told me about the studio and all of that. And we were talking, and then like a shootout had broke out in the spot. So we all got separated. And then a couple days later, he called me. He told me to try it. He said if I didn't like it, I'd have to do it again, but he thought I should try. And that was it. That was history.
Wow.
He knew what he was talking about.
Huh?
And
He knew what he was talking about.
I, I guess so.
I guess so.
I guess so.
so, so when that happened, did you know already that you were gonna be creative partners for a while? You knew this was going to last, this working relationship between the two of you?
I mean, it was cool because we just vibed. We just vibed, and I think with Irv, he saw a lot in me that I didn't see in myself. But I was just enjoying the process of going to the studio, and I didn't really know what it was that I wanted to do. Like I had just pretty much graduated high school, so my intent was to go to college for a little bit, and then but then I got involved with him doing the music stuff, and the more he would talk to me about what could happen, the more I was like, okay, yeah, let's go for it. So I really was just basically just going with it, and it felt good. So I didn't mind the situation at all.
Were you surprised by how much the song "Shit's Real" blew once it was out? I mean, it's the first one you ever recorded, and it's already
Yeah,
blowing up. It's a huge hit.
yeah. I mean, I kind of like when we did it and we played it and I heard it. I kind of had a feeling like that it was good. I didn't know to what extent. But then Irv would go bananas every time he played it, and he would be like, "Yo, I'm telling you, we getting ready to blow, blah blah blah." So to me, I was just happy that I had recorded a record, and I was just happy that I could let my friends hear it, and maybe I'll be on the radio, maybe I won't, I don't know. But I was just happy for those things. So then when it did come out and it did accelerate, it kind of like it just took me by surprise. Like I was so blown away that I couldn't really say anything. I was just kind of like stuck, like, wow, I didn't expect all of it.
And what does it mean, like, it blew up? Did you start, like, doing the show every day? People started recognize you? How?
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff. Like, at that time, video started to become very, very important to artists. And they had, like, there was one channel in particular known as The Box. And what you could do is you used to be able to call the number on the screen and you could punch in a 3-digit code relative to the video you wanted to see. And they would play a video. And, like the first week, it came on and I was like, oh, that's dope. And, like my brother, my cousins, all my friends was like, yo, look. And then it just started coming on back to back to back to back to back. And I was like, wow. And then it hit Video Music Box with Ralph McDaniels. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Ralph McDaniels. And once he started to play it, like, it was almost like 24 hours, my life changed. Like, my neighbors were a lot nicer to me. and like I would go to the store, just, regular stuff I would do. And, I kind of would, yo, you're such and such. So that would kind of bug me out. And then I think where I realized the day that I realized, like, okay, this is different. I went to Jamaica Avenue. We used to call it the Ave. And I went to go buy sneakers. And I would always go there, like, everybody went to the Ave. But I went to get a haircut and buy sneakers, and I kind of got mobbed in the doorway. And I was by myself. Like, none of my friends were with me, and there was just a bunch of people around me. And, yo, can you sign this? And they just started spazzing, and the security from the mall had to help me get out the mall to get into a car to go home. So that's kind of like the moment where I kind of realized, like, oh, okay, things are a little different now.
Shit's real.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think I took it all in stride. It was cool. It's cool to go through.
Nice.
So, let's go to from the single to the whole album, The Natural.
Yeah.
Tal, you can pull it up again, the vinyl. Beats from the Beat Miners there, Buck Wild, F. Gotti, of course. How did you put that album together?
It was, Tomer, it was real organic, bro. It wasn't like we sat and we were like, yo, okay, now we're going to do this and this and this. I think Irv he had a blueprint for how far left and right I should go, so to speak. But
it was like the one over. Sorry? It was
exactly.
Like the one.
Yeah.
He was like overseeing the project?
I would say he was more the navigator because he knew, like, okay, you're going to need this kind of song and this kind of song. And he knew, okay, after this comes out, this should come out. And he knew to do things to keep a consistent vibe. And he was very intelligent in that sense. He just would know what needed to happen. And me, I was more of a free spirit where I kind of was just happy that the shit was being played, so when it came to making the album, yeah, there were producers that I wanted to work with, like Pete Rock I had known since I was about 16, 17 years old from going to Lost Professor's crib. And, I knew Lost Boys for a long time because I grew up with a lot of them and I went to school with a lot of them. And, people that were from Queens that I did stuff with on the album, these are kind of the people I would always interact with, that I vibed with. So my whole thing was, if I vibed with somebody, I would work with them. And even if I didn't know them, if I was just meeting them, as long as we shared the same vibe and we could create, then it didn't really matter to me, you know. So I was lucky enough to be introduced to Buck Wild. And then the minute we met, we hit it off. And like I said, Pete I knew for years. And, you know, Walt and Evil D, Beat Miners, when I was introduced to them, everything felt organic. It felt like a good vibe. So we didn't necessarily plan per se how to do it. We just let the vibe take over the project mostly. And then when there were those times where you kind of have to be careful of what you're doing, that's when Irv would come in and say, all right, well, this should be this and this should be that. But that's how it went down.
And that was actually the first album on the TVT label, right? That's actually the
Oh,
first
yeah.
one they released.
Yeah, it was the first. I was the first hip hop artist that they had ever signed, and it was the first rap single that they ever put out, and it was the first hip hop album that they were gonna put into the world. So it was a lot of firsts that happened, and it was a lot of pressure that came with that. But we did it. We made it.
So there was
Yeah.
pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely. There were pros and cons all over the place. But you know, you go through it, you deal with it, you do what you do.
But did they let you have freedom over the project, or there was like, you know, like a major
Oh
label
yeah.
what to do? And
Not at all. Not at all. And I think that was mainly because they didn't just view me as an artist and they didn't just view Irv as a producer, but they actually were looking to us for some sort of a barometer as to, okay, how, what, when, why, what do we do with hip hop? You know, and so there were suggestions that they would make every now and again, like I ended up working with the Fugees doing remixes that never had came out, and that came through the label. And I think that was kind of them saying, well, you know, this is working over there, so let's make it work here. And we would try to explain to them that just because you see something doing something over there doesn't mean that it's what you need here. But we went ahead, you know, and we did a couple of things. But for the most part, they gave us a lot of creative control. A lot of creative control. And they pretty much stayed out the way of what we were
they should. You had some major singles over there, like they were all
doing. Yeah,
bangers, like
yeah,
real hip hop
yeah,
bangers.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
making
absolutely. So for them as a label, they would just be more shocked when we would come back and be like, okay, this is what we did. And they would be like, whoa, okay, cool. And I think that actually maybe made them more so say, you know what, they know what they're doing. Just let them do
Let
what
them
they're
do.
doing.
Gotcha.
and
Yeah.
we haven't talked about the features on that album because you got a song.
Yeah.
I mean, you work with Jay-Z, DMX, and Ja Rule when they were trying to have their Murder Inc. as a crew. You work
Yeah.
with them as a crew on your album. Can you tell us what it was like working with them back then?
Oh, it was cool. It was cool. And it was all brand new for all of us. So, you know, I think out of all of them, I probably spent the most time. I definitely spent the most time with Ja because he didn't live far from me. So, you know, me and Rule always clicked. And even when we weren't doing music, he might just call me and be like, yo, come hang out. And I'll be like, all right, I would crash at his crib. So we knew each other well, you know, and we would always, even if we wasn't in the studio, we could be on a corner or we could be in front of his building or at his house and we would just spit, you know, we would just rap all day long. So working with Rule was it was just routine. It's just something that we love to do, you know. And then working with X, it was crazy because I wasn't there and Rule wasn't there. We weren't in the studio when Hove did his verse and when X did his verse. They did it separately. So when I came to the studio and Herb played it for me, I never really heard DMX before. I heard maybe 2 songs that he had did, but I met him and I liked him. Like the minute that we met, we were like peas in a pot, you know. So when I heard his verse, I was like, whoa. Like I'd never heard anybody rhyme like that before.
He's killing it
And
over there.
yeah, and then when
Yeah.
I heard Jay's verse, that kind of had me like whoa too, because I knew of him from Original Flavor. There was a group called Original Flavor that was
I
out,
remember.
and he had did a song. Right, he did a song called "Can I Get Open," but he was rhyming mad fast on the song. He didn't sound like how he sounded on Time to Bill. So when I did hear Time to Bill, I was like, okay, I never heard anyone rhyme like that either. And then the catch to it all was DMX was dissing Jay-Z, and Jay-Z was dissing DMX.
On the
But me and
verses?
Will didn't know that. Yeah, if you listen to the record, DMX's verses aimed at Jay-Z, and Jay-Z's verses aimed to respond to what DMX said. But they were just having friendly, you know, like rap competition, but we didn't know. So then when we heard it and Irv explained it to us, we were just like, yo, this is bananas. Yeah, I was just like, yo, that's crazy. They dissed each other and I didn't even know. But I just laughed about it. I smoked, I pressed play again, I listened to it again, and I was just like, yeah, this shit is crazy.
So, by then they were already trying to form the three of them as a group, or
No, not at all. It wasn't. This was way before that. This was, in fact, I think at that time I was the only one that was signed of the four.
Hey, you were the big dog in that song.
Yeah, so I was the only one that had, you know, a deal. They were all working on getting established, you know, so I didn't really know about Rough Riders at that point, and I didn't really know about Rockefeller at that point. I just knew that they had separate crews and that they were rhyming too, and that they were gonna eventually be on. But this was way before Murder Inc. Like this was before the label Murder Inc. We didn't even have Murder Inc. at that time, so it was just really the 4 MCs that Irv saw the most in, and he just wanted to bring us all together.
Another song, my favorite song on the album is "Man versus Many," which is
That's what's up.
that.
Yeah,
How did
yeah.
that came up?
Very spontaneous. Shout out to OC. Always like, you know, O would be in my sessions even if we weren't working together. He would just come chill out, hang out, and me and O were like brothers. And Flush, you know, Flush is like my right hand.
yeah,
Well, she's
So
all over the album.
that's a whole
right,
story.
so
Another story to
yeah,
talk
so
about you and Flash.
I don't even think that day that we intended to do that song. I think that I want to say that I think it was Mr. Walt who played the song. He played the beat, and we just so all happened to be in the studio, and the idea just came to us, and then we was just like, yo. I remember O and me saying like, yo, let's not just do 16 bars. Like, let's do it like we all talking to each other in a circle. So we didn't plan it out. What you got in the end, it was just pure luck that we all put it down the way that we did. Like to this day, I can't explain how we were able to do it and not have to go back and re-record it. But everybody knew when to stop rhyming and everybody knew when to let someone else jump in. And I think my man from the block, CeeLo, he was just there. Like he just came in the session while we were recording. And I remember he ran in the vocal booth and we didn't even know he was going to say anything. And he just started rhyming. And after Irv heard all of it, he was like, yo, keep all of that. He's like, that's it. Keep it all.
That's like,
And that's how it happened.
that's like so hip hop. I mean, this is what makes hip hop so amazing. Like these moments, those studio
Yeah,
cyphers, you can even call it, that turn
yeah,
into a song like that.
yeah. And like I said, none of us had heard the beat before, and none of us had sat down and wrote our lines. We just was like, yo, you say something and then we gonna know how to move it. And then I think it was Flush that actually came up with the, it was either Flush or my man CeeLo that came up with the hook, we need this money, God. We penetrate through the outstage, time short, fuck that, Mike, let's motivate. And we didn't know whose name we was gonna say next. We just would look at each other and be like, yo, say your name. So, and then that was it. It just turned out that way, and that was dope.
That's
Uh,
dope.
You know,
Yeah.
we obviously need to talk about Royal Flush. How did the two of you meet?
Our Flush I knew from growing up because I used to play Little League baseball with his cousin Rashad. So I knew him from as being a kid, and then when I ended up getting older and being able to go back to my old neighborhood and visit everyone, he was always there, and we just naturally had a vibe. You know, when we would rhyme for hours, and then I remember one night I did a show in a club in the city, and he was outside waiting to get into the venue, and I was like, who you with? And he showed me, and then I was like, yo, why don't you come on stage with me? And that night we just did the show together, and we didn't have to tell anything to each other. We just knew, and it's been that way ever since.
Till this day. 'Cause we've seen in Drink Champs, like, it's still close.
Yeah, absolutely. We still, we he does what he does. I do what I do. But at the end of the day, that's my bro. That's who I came up with. So, it's what we
So,
are. It's what we do.
yeah.
Are you both
Yeah,
still in New York?
yeah. I was actually gonna move from New York, but then other things had gotten in the way. So I'm still here. I'm still here. I'll eventually move from here, but I'm still here.
I would trade with you.
I mean, I don't know. Right now, I don't know about all. It's kind of crazy out here right now, but okay.
Uh, but let's move on to your second album.
Uh-huh.
In on that album, you actually started working with Diddy. How did the two of you link
Yeah.
up?
Oh, Puff was like Diddy. I Puff, whatever. Puff's like
So many
family,
names.
you know. Yeah, too many names. But Puff was like family, and Bad Boy. They, when I came out, they kind of put their arms around me, embraced me on, like, we got you too, and I knew Harv Pierre. Shout out to Harv, because he was a vice president of Bad Boy, but he was from Queens. So I knew Harv, I knew Harv's brother, and we all knew a lot of the same people. So really, we started talking about working with each other during the first album when I did the remix with the Lost Boy. And we were like, yo,
That was
they,
amazing.
yeah, so he would call me and be like, yo, Mike, I need you to do this mixtape, or yo, Mike, come to the studio. I just want you to hear these beats. So I would go to Bad Boy a lot. I would just be there, like, just listening to music, or chilling with Puff, or, just running around chilling with the producers, the hitmen. So we always were like, yo, we're going to work together, but I don't think that we wanted it to be anything forced. So we just like, when the window comes to do something, like, let's do that. And then when it was time for me to start the second album, Bad Boy, um, and my label, my management rather, they talked a lot about, okay, we definitely want, Mike and Puff to do stuff. So let's get it off the ground. And then we did. And it was cool. So shout out to Puff.
And after that, it was like, yo, I'm here, like, I'm in the big league. This is Puff Daddy.
Hmm.
I'm on top now.
I mean, yeah, I did feel that way. Like, there's no way you can't feel that way. But I think I felt that way more of like, okay, like, if you leveled up, that means that you got more pressure on you. So I was just big on trying to deliver the same thing that I was always known for delivering. But it was cool. You take it all in stride. And it definitely felt good to be working with somebody that again
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
You know, definitely.
Yeah. On that album, you have the final cut, Usual Suspects, the posse cut.
Yeah,
You have some
yeah.
names on that. The
Yeah,
last,
again, it was all people that I was cool with. Like the Lock, shout out to them. Yeah, and Tragedy Gaddafi,
yeah, and Cormega.
or Mega,
You have
like
two
shout
versions
out to
of
Meg.
there's two
Yeah, there were
versions of the
two.
song.
Well, I could talk about it now. At the time, I couldn't really talk about it. But the reasoning that there were two different versions is, at that time, the tension between the East Coast and the West Coast was severe. I don't think it was too long after Big and Pac had died. There was still a lot of tension, and I was cool with all parties involved. I was cool with Big, but I was just as cool with Pac. And Fatal Hussein, rest in peace. That's my man from Outlaws. So Fatal and Irv and myself, we all talked about having him on something. And we definitely were talking to Pac about, me and Pac working together and me and the Outlaws working together at some point. Um, so when Usual Suspects came, the Locks were like one of the first to do their part to it, and they did. And then I think it was, I don't know who exactly at Bad Boy it was, but they kind of were still very hurt by everything that happened. And so they kind of were like, it's not, we understand you cool with this one and that one, but we can't have, our artists on a record with, with someone affiliated with Pop. And it kind of felt fucked up because I didn't know how to, tell Fatal that we couldn't use the verse. So Bad Boy pretty much gave me an ultimatum where they were like, yo, you could do it, but if you keep the locks, you're gonna have to yank, Fatal. So we just ended up doing two versions, and that they were okay with, and that's how it went.
More for us. We good with it. More
Yeah,
for us.
so yeah, so and it's cool now because like I always have people like, yo, there's this version, but it's so hard to find the other one and blah blah blah. So
So
it
on the
kind
How to Be
of
a
took
Player
on a life.
soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yo, and so it took on a life of its own, and then it's cool now because it's actually now something that I could look back on. And minus all the drama that occurred at that time, I'm just glad that I have songs with all those people together, you know. And like I said, for me, it was always a matter of if I vibed with you or not. So I never looked at it like for any other aspect other than, these is brothers I rhyme with. We're all part of this fraternity of people that spit. And that shit is our religion. So to be able to do to be able to do something with the people you respect, there's no price for that, you know?
Yeah, and when you were doing on the second album, you had Jay Z and DMX and Ja
Oh
Rule,
yeah.
and on different
Yeah.
songs. Also in a living single with Jay Z, and
Yeah.
was by then they were getting more mainstream attention, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. At that time, I think Rule's first and second album were already out. I know DMX first album definitely was out. Jay-Z, I think he was on like his second album or one of the two. But everybody was established at the time that I did the second album, but again, I'm just so big on if I vibe with you, I work with you, so I kind of at that point, I just would keep a close circle of friends that I would work with, and I never really went outside of the circle of people I knew. So I was always going to do something with DMX. I was always going to do something with Ja. I was always going to do something with Flush. I was always gonna do something with Ho. You know, those were the people that, and I can't leave OC out. We just didn't do anything because of him being so busy on the road at the time. But that core of people that I would work with, I just carried that over to the second album. And I never really deviated too much from that.
And you talked on Drink Champs about your relationship with them and how good they were to you when they didn't have to be. That's what you said on that interview. Is it a bond
Yeah.
that's rare to come across in the rap game?
Um, I don't know how rare it is. I just know that I felt genuine connection with all of them, and I know they had genuine connection with me, and that was good. That that's a comfortable place to be. That's a cool place to be. So as I said, I would never really look at working with anybody outside of the people I knew. Um, and that's just how it was. And I don't think that any of us in our wildest dreams would have thought that, you know, we would all, be a part of something way bigger than any of us could ever imagine. It just turned out that way, and so I'm very grateful that this core group of people that I enjoyed working with and I enjoyed being around, like, it's pretty cool that we all ended up how we did.
And the on Drink Champs, I mean, you I know I mentioned it, we refer to it a lot, but it was such a special interview. I think it was a very
I
heartfelt
appreciate it.
interview. And usually I don't talk much about other interviews, but that really was a special one. Um,
That's what I appreciate it.
and you said in there that two Jay Z and Ja and DMX before his passing, that
Yeah.
that what you're saying there will get to them, and you know that they will hear it, and that's why it's
Oh
important
yeah,
to say
absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
Did
they
it then?
did,
Did
and they
they?
have. Yeah, and they have. So it's cool. We don't speak every day. I mean, and granted, X passed away. Um, but I already, like, I think Rule was on Drink Champs himself, and he was like bigging me up, and Nori had told me that he spoke with him anyway, and so we didn't directly speak yet, but I know that they heard what I said, and I know that they have the same love, and it already got back, so we're good. Like, I'm happy for all of them, and it's nothing that would ever change with me.
Did you get to see DMX before he passed? Did you get to?
No, I went to the hospital maybe 4 days or 3 days before he passed away. Um, and it was really hectic, and they weren't allowing at that point anyone other than his immediate family to see him. But I had spoken with like people at Rough Riders to, give them my prayers and my support. Yeah, and then he passed maybe 3 days after that. So I didn't get to see him before he passed away, but I'm just grateful for all those moments that we did have with each other, and all those good times that I could look back and,
That's it.
think about. And yeah, I still miss him. I'm gonna always miss him.
Rest in peace to DMX. And
Absolutely.
one moment that of you and DMX that was captured was that legendary cipher with you and Big
Yeah,
Pun and Mos Def and
yeah,
One of the most iconic
Canibus.
videos on YouTube.
yeah. It's crazy. Like, it's bugged out to me, bro, because I think that day, like, I didn't even know we were all getting together. I just remember going to the label, and I remember Irv telling me like, "Yo, we're gonna go meet X," and I just thought we was going to wherever he was to go hang or whatever it was. I didn't know we were gonna end up sitting down and doing this whole thing, and then I think that's one of the reasons why the interview, aside from the cipher, it's so pure, it's so organic, and it's so real because all of us there, we totally forgot about the fact that we were being interviewed. You know, it was just six good friends sitting at a table and talking about, you know, what we all do and the things we go through as artists. And I would have never thought that it was gonna end up being a YouTube video, much less seen by the people it was seen by. But it's it's it has a life of its own,
Yeah,
you know,
Sure.
and
and it's so
it's crazy.
amazing because it's people that from like different corners of the rap game, different spheres, I would say. You know, Mos Def
Yeah,
and DMX and
yeah.
you and Pan. It was like,
And it's funny you say that, Tom. You know why? Because people may assume that, you know, at that time they had all of these different categories for rappers. Like they would try to say, oh, he's a backpack rapper and he's underground, or they would say he's hardcore and he's street, or he's, you know, he's popping. People are just people at the end of the day, you know, and you might have been classified as a backpack rapper and he might have been classified as a hardcore rapper, but it does not mean that you didn't come from the same things or know the same things. And so it's just evidence to the fact that when people do sit down and they do just have candid conversations with each other, like you see all the things you have in common, you know, and you see all the respect that a DMX could have for a Mos Def, or that a Pun could have for a John Forte. You know, they're all amazing, incredible lyricists. You know, so like I said, to be able to sit there with people that just love being a part of being able to make music is amazing. And I never thought that it would. I never thought I would even see those moments again, let alone that it would go viral. So to have it in the world still and to have it as part of like the archives of hip hop is, it ain't no words for it. There's no words for it.
and I watched it again today. You were the only one there that was coming off the top. You were
Oh
freestyling.
yeah. Because I think at that point, because we had a lot of drinks and we was laughing a lot, we was smoking, we was having a good old time, and I couldn't remember anything from any of my songs. So I just, you know, I did what I always do. You want me to rhyme? All right, cool. Put a beat on or don't. And I just blacked out and went for it, you know, and that's how it was. And I'm honored. I'm
It's
I'm
classic,
astonished
man.
to be a part of
It's
it.
classic.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, I appreciate being in that moment and having that moment. You know? Yeah.
Um. All right. So again, and you know, when we talk about you and Irv, so there's also, you know, for a while you had a fallout between the two of you. Also, something you addressed on
Mhm.
Drink Champs, and you said that at one point you felt that maybe your relationship wasn't organic together. Is that something that you only see in hindsight, or is it something you felt as you were doing it?
Um, no, I think I definitely started to feel that way as we went further along. Um, I think now in hindsight, I'm able to look at it and not be as bothered. Like if the me now would be able to go back to me then, I would probably be like, yeah, but whatever. It's not the end of the world, you know. So now I could look at it and I could say I understand it for what it is. Do I? I wouldn't change how I reacted to it, and I wouldn't change anything that occurred, you know, after it. I think everything in everyone's life happens the way that it's supposed to, whether we realize it or not. So I wouldn't change any of it. But no, I don't think that I even needed hindsight. I think in hindsight, I could absolutely say, yeah, whatever I felt then was the motivating force.
Do you think that that fallout had some kind of impact on your career after that?
Yeah, absolutely, because there's no way that it wouldn't. Um, but I'm okay with that because it's just funny how everything works. And I think that when the fallout first started to occur, it was right around the same time that I started to say to myself, um, this isn't as fun as it used to be. And I'm not sure of all these things that are happening around me. And I'm not sure of all these people that are around me. And it kind of was happening at a time where I was already questioning, if I wanted to keep doing music and being a part of music. And if I felt that I could keep that energy, that raw energy that I had that brought me to being an artist. So it definitely, in that sense, affected me in terms of, the outer part of things, meaning, did it affect me with certain people or did it affect me with certain things that may have been able to happen and now they're not able to happen just because? Yeah, that happened too. But as I said, in hindsight, to look at it all now, it actually was a blessing in disguise for me.
In many places, it was said and written that what leads you in life is integrity. Did you sometimes feel that it had an effect on your career, that you were sticking to your integrity and it
Um,
had some costs?
I never really, bro. Like, I never sat and I never said to myself, well, if you do this, that's gonna lead to this. So you should decide to do it this way. I never thought of it that way, and I think that's because, as I said, when I came into it, I wasn't expecting anything that happened for me in music. I like anything I got from it, I was just like, okay, cool. So to me, it was based on nothing more than how I felt in my heart. And the minute in my heart that I felt, okay, yeah, you can keep doing this, but you would just be masquerading as though you're really enjoying it. And how long can you masquerade not being happy and acting like you are? And if you don't feel that you can put on a smiley face and play that role, then don't hop in that water. And that's about the most that I said to myself, but past that it was in my gut and my soul, this is kind of what I feel I need to do. And so I just ran with it and I did that.
And did you really feel that the industry at one point that you were getting blackballed?
I mean, it's funny because you hear all these things and rumors, and there's a saying they say, believe half of what you see and none of what you heard. Um, so over the years, I would like hear little things here and there, but I couldn't really confirm it. And I think like Drink Champs was probably the first opportunity that anybody had ever outright said to me, no, I'm confirming your suspicion. So, I mean, it didn't exactly knock me off my feet to hear that maybe there were people that were deliberately trying to make things difficult for me career wise. But in the flip side of that, I was like, all right, I'm kind of tired of this shit right now anyway. So you're not making anything difficult. So it kind of, like I said, it's weird how it occurred because I was kind of like, I'm ready to take a break. And they were like, well, we're going to make you take a break. And I was like, well, that's fucking great because I was going to take a break anyway.
So you're just helping me right now.
You can't fire me, I quit.
Yeah, in a weird way. You understand what I'm saying, bro? But like I said, it's so strange to how life works out, bro. You know what I mean? And like I said, at that time, all I knew was that something in me was telling me, yo, take a step back from all of this shit for a minute. And that's what I did.
And then you came back in the 2000s. You
Yeah,
had two albums. You had the
yeah,
Long Road Back and Alive.
uh-huh.
What was
Yeah.
your state of mind as you were making those?
I think with Long Road Back, it was the first time that somebody has said to me, you know, you should investigate doing independent projects. And, you know, you don't understand that you have enough with you to be able to do independent projects. And I did it, you know, with my boys that I grew up with like my family, you know, and no one helped us. We paid for the whole project on our own. And it was like my first adventure into doing an album without a label. And at that time, you know, everyone was trying to get on board with being independent. Cash Money had just shown us all how lucrative being independent artists were. And, you know, there were different MCs coming out of the South every single day that they had no label. They were just their own business. And it started me open up to the fact of, okay, the labels make all of this money off of all of us. And there's actually an opportunity for us to make our own homes, our own entities, our own companies. So that was my mentality with doing it for Long Road Back. And it was also for me, I felt like, all right, do you know how to still do this? And not only that, but can you do this better than you ever did? And can you keep up with what's going on around you? So it was like a personal test for myself. And we did it, and it was great. And then Alive, I pretty much did because I had still been in this creative space where I was like, all of these ideas were coming to me, rap wise, and I was like, all right, let me just go and do this because there's something changing with me as an artist. There's my flow's changing, my delivery's changing. It's getting more to another place.
Yeah,
So
on a live you
yeah,
can really hear that switch where you can go through like different dimensions when you flow wise. I thought it's
yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it was dope, bro, because for me it was the first time where I kind of like allowed myself to see how far I could move around a ring. Or, you know, like it was the first time I said to myself, well, if you have this idea, but this idea doesn't fit into the mold of what people think you should be or what you are, it doesn't matter what they think. If you try it and it comes out right, then that means this is part of something that's you. So it was the first time I think creatively I allowed myself to be as creative as possible. And it was different because I didn't have a gang of people around me with my creative process. It was just me versus the world and me coaching me and me seeing how far I could take these superpowers. And I did.
Yeah, it was a very different time at the industry. I mean, the landscape really
Absolutely.
changed, the sound changed, the new,
The
Yeah.
internet changed.
yeah, for
The
sure.
internet, yeah, you know, and all these things were happening and colliding in the same time frame. So it was a bunch of shit.
Yeah, crazy times.
Was it hard for
It
New
was
York
crazy.
rappers back in in that decade? I mean, because you know the shift was going from New York
Yeah,
to
and even with that, and that played like Tomer, that played a big part with things because it was the beginning of New York not being the dominant sound. And it was the beginning of trap music starting to take over. And it was the beginning of that influence from the South. And their whole approach to music was night and day from us, you know. So, and it was the beginning of the influence of gangs in music, you know. So a lot of the genesis of what now is drill and what now is hard trap music, this was the beginning of all of that, you know, coming in. And when it came in, it swallowed everything around it. So I had to figure out a way where I could still be me, but that I could also show that no matter what the weather is outside, I could go outside. It doesn't matter.
And on the Long Road Back album, you had songs that were like "I'm Alive" or "Ever Be the Same," where you talk about the state you were in before and some experiences. Were you in a dark place in those times, like until this
Yeah,
leading up to those
absolutely.
albums?
Yeah, absolutely. I went through my share of dark times, but I think that was good in terms of making material, because I think your darkest times are your most sincere time. I think those are the times where you can say things in a way that you wouldn't be able to say them if you had this pretty picture around you. Um, and I was never a person that, like, I never felt like I had to hide what I was going through. I never felt like because I am who I am, I shouldn't say this, or I shouldn't talk about that, or I shouldn't express how I feel. If that's how I'm feeling and if that's what I'm going through, then what else could I tell you? So was I in a dark place? Absolutely. And was I going through a lot? Absolutely. But I think that energy from going through those experiences, and I think that energy from being in a dark place, helped me make really good music.
And when I heard the interview on Drink Champs, I thought about those songs and like the stories related to me. It's as if you
Mhm.
were addressing some of those stories back then, still not in detail, but I could really connect the two. The
Mhm.
story from the song and the story from that interview.
Yeah, it made sense. Exactly, bro. Exactly.
And we talked about some of the relations you had with, and some working relationships you had with rappers. And during your career, you also got to meet and have some stories with Tupac and Biggie, both of them. So you said you were
Yeah.
there when Biggie met the original Biggie Smalls. You were there when they were
Oh
having.
yeah. Yeah, that was funny. We were in Los Angeles, and I think it was the first tour I ever did outside of New York. Like, I'd never even. I think the farthest I ever left New York was like North Carolina before that. But yeah, we went to the West Coast, and I can't remember the name of the club, but yeah, the guy came to the club, and I just remember laughing because he was short, and I was like, he thought like that's Biggie Small, but what I didn't know was like, yeah, out here in this part of the world, people don't too much laugh at him for being Biggie Small, so I had to pull it together, and I'll be the first to tell New Yorkers were just arrogant by nature. Like, we could go anywhere in the world and swear like, so what? Like, I'm from New York, please get out of here. So so I had to like suppress that as well. But I don't know exactly what they said, because at that point I started walking either towards the car or back in the club or what, but they had a conversation. And then it was shortly after that he changed the name. I don't think it was because he scared Big. I don't think it's because he put pressure on him. I just think that legally he probably had the rights to the name, and they probably pursued it. They had a talk one-on-one, and that was it. But yeah, I definitely saw it. It was funny. We were in the Bay Area, as a matter of fact. I can't remember exactly where in the Bay Area, but we were at a club in the Bay Area.
And also, and what about your relationship with Pac? From what I heard you say, from the stories I've heard you tell, you seem to have a lot of respect for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually met Pop because of Herb. Um, the first time I met him, it was just randomly in Atlanta at this thing that they used to do called Freaknik, and I gave him my tape. I gave him my CD. I gave him my sticker. I told him who I was. I told him this is my song, and he was real cool. He was smoking a blunt. He looked at the sticker. He shook his head. He was like, "All right, I'm gonna check it out." You know, and then I got back in the truck. And then months later, as fate would have it, a lot of people I knew from Queens, they knew Pac. And when Pac would come to Queens, he would hang around them. And these were like older dudes that had been around. So we ended up linking up and we met. And it's weird because I wasn't really a fan of his music at that point. Like I remember, I think the only thing he did that I liked at the time was Brenda Has a Baby. He had a song called Brenda Got a Baby, and I liked that.
First album.
But I didn't really like whatever else he was making. But after I met him, it's like it changed all of that. And then I remember the third time that I saw him, that was kind of when I said to myself, like, yeah, he's a cool dude. I could see us hanging around and being cool or whatever. And so, again, it was a very natural process. It was a very organic process. And, you know, anytime I interacted with him or I was around him, he would show me love. And it just went from there. Just went.
There's a story about you saving him at the tunnel.
I don't like when people just, I'm gonna tell you, like, Tal, like, people say save, and I think that's like the wrong choice of words because it's not really saving him. It's more so he could have did whatever he wanted to do. You understand what I'm saying? Like he could have wilded out, he could have spazzed out, he could have did whatever he felt like doing. One, because he wasn't just with me, there were older brothers with us, OGs that, you know.
Yeah.
So he could have popped off anytime he wanted to, and we was right with him. So if he did pop off, it's not like we were just gonna stand there and not get involved with him. So I don't want to say we saved him. I merely want to say that I just witnessed enough as to me. I saw the way that people were treating him to be incredibly ignorant and just to have there was no respect behind it. And I think more so, it wasn't that it was him, it's that I was seeing how people were choosing to behave or choosing to treat someone just because they felt for no other reason. That's how I feel. And to me that was whack. So I don't want to say saved him. If anything, I probably slowed him up from doing what he would normally do.
But you stuck up
And
for
so,
him.
yeah, I guess you could say that, but I don't think that's anything he wouldn't have did for me if the shoe were on the other foot.
That's before he got shot at the elevator or after?
Yeah, that was way before he got shot.
Oh, way before.
He actually got shot in the elevator with my road manager. My road manager was the person in the elevator with him that got shot.
Whoa.
Yeah. Shout out to Fred Nichols.
Shout out.
Yeah, so yeah, and even then, because I remember that night, I was working at another studio and I finished up late and I was getting in the grand car, the taxi service cars that they would get artists. And I got in and it came on the radio that he got shot. And I knew my road manager was with him. So I called my manager and then I actually started to go, if I'm not mistaken, I think they took him to St. Vincent's in the city. And I started to go to the hospital, but they said, don't go. They told me to go home. And then somehow or another, I believe I talked to Tretch, like maybe the day after or 2 days after. And he's just telling me that he was okay. I told him to tell him, you know, that I wanted him to be okay or whatever. But it was just different after that in the sense that he didn't know what was going on. And I don't blame him for that. But he just wanted to stay isolated. So, you know, but things had never changed in terms of how I felt. Yeah.
And he still had a connection.
Yeah, facts, absolutely. Because it's funny because I think after he passed, that's how me and Fatal got as cool as we were. And Fatal would always tell me that, Fatal would be like, "Yo, he had love for you. He would talk about you, Mike. Like he respected you, and he definitely cared about you." And it's kind of bugged out to hear that coming from someone, who's so close to him. And we didn't interact a whole lot in life, but I guess for us that was enough interaction to be like, yeah, that's my bro, no matter what, So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm all same thing. I'm gonna always miss him too, you know.
And when they were talking about forming Death Row East, were you supposed to be a part of that?
Yeah, they, yeah, yeah. So, Irv and my people, I guess, were talking a lot with Death Row at the time. Um, I just remember them coming to the label and giving me the Death Row East T-shirt, and like Irv was just like, "Yo, put that on," and I put it on, and I looked at the logo on the shirt, and I was like, "What?" And I had it, and I was like, "Death Row East," and they were like, "Yeah, that's your next move," and I was just like, "Okay."
Why not?
Not too many
I was
people
just
knew
like,
about it,
"Yeah,
but
all right, cool."
I mean,
So I don't know, right?
Nas had
Right,
a
like, and
song called Death Row East just on his last album.
yeah, yeah. Shout out to Nas. So, but like I say, I think with me, it was always like there was always something around me that would be like, yeah, but okay, why don't you come right over here while all of this is happening? So, so I would, for some strange reason, at like the 11th hour, always be removed from like right before catastrophe occurred. And I don't know why that is, but it would just happen that way.
Good karma.
I guess. I hope so. I guess so.
And let's talk a bit about your new songs, because you released a
Yeah.
few songs lately, and you released a song called
Mhm.
"The One" when you use the Matrix as an
Yeah.
analogy. Is it based on experience in your show in the show business and what you see young people doing today?
It's kind of, I think, a mashup of all of those things. Like, I just remember, shout out to Black Mike from ATL. He played the beat, and I was in Atlanta working with him and DJ Toom and Mr. Lee. Shout out to all three of them. And he played it, and again, I never heard the beat. I didn't know what I was gonna say to it. I just went outside and smoked a cigarette, and for some strange reason, I just started thinking about Alice in Wonderland because I heard the Matrix beginning, and I started thinking about how people neglect to tie Alice in Wonderland to the Matrix. And then I started thinking about my own situation and how to make Alice in Wonderland and the Matrix applicable to me. Um, and then from there, I just started writing it. And it was weird because I had no idea that like a Matrix movie was coming out and
Yes.
all that other shit. I just heard the beat and I liked it and the idea was different and we did it. And lo and behold, that's how it went. So but it was cool. I think I did this song in like I think it did it in under 20 minutes,
Really?
which was cool. Yeah, yeah. So
What
it was good. It was a very good vibe.
what made you release music after all this time? I mean, it's been like some years.
Again, Tyler's weird, bro. Like I did the Drink Champs thing, and I remember after I did it, Nori took me to eat. Shout out to Nori, my bro, and
Or is the man?
he took, yeah, and he took me to eat, and he was like he had talked to me in the past, but never like that day. Like it was just a different type of talk. And he just looked me square in my eye and he was like, look, I'm telling you that if you want everything again, and whether you realize it or not, you just did something that's gonna open it all up for you again. And he was like, me, I think you should go for it. He said, but only you could decide. And he's like, you know, if you do choose to go for it, just give it everything in you. And it was weird because my dad, before he passed away, my dad passed away maybe, I want to say 5, 6 years ago. But my dad one day was like, yeah, I'm looking at you on YouTube, and you know, there's people from Spain, and there's people from Russia, and there's people from Sweden, all over the world. They're all talking about my kid. And my dad kind of bugged me out because he knew what I did, but he's just like the quintessential dad. So he's like, yeah, there's all that shit. I'll pay attention, but not too much. And I think it kind of started to hit him about the impact, you know, that my career had. And my dad never, before that, like, he never was like, yo, you know, like, wow. Or he might have just been like, yeah, okay, yeah, I know you're Mic Geronimo because everyone at my job tells me, and that. So, but it was different. And he was like, and you got to understand, my dad was a New York City cop. He was in the army. He was like, he was third, like he would fit right in Israel. You know what I mean? But my dad was like, you got to get back out there. And that shocked me. And I was like,
Wow.
what? And he was like,
Even your
you
dad
got to
says
get back out there. Yeah. And I told him, I said, look, if I ever feel that I love it the way that I did and something lets me know, then I'll do it. I promise you. You know, and he passed away maybe 4 or 5 days after that.
well,
And
and
then
that
fast forward to when I was talking with Nori, I just kind of like heard my dad. And I just kind of heard and felt my dad being like, get off your ass, kid. Like, trust me, just go and do this. And I started slow. And it was so weird because literally the day after Drink Champs, I was supposed to record with Nori, Capone, and Flush, and I think it was something for Capone. So I had studio time, but something had happened where all 4 of us couldn't get in the studio at that time. So for some reason, I was just like, yo, let me just use the session. And I ended up recording 4 songs. And then I went back to New York, and that was kind of the beginning of this project starting. And then from there, my manager Shampoo, shout out to Shampoo YNVS, and my sister Allie, who's my PR, shout out to her. We just started moving, you know, and
So there's an album on the way.
oh yeah, absolutely,
and you
absolutely.
chosen to
Yeah.
call it. You still calling it the project 3016, the number of your father's
Yeah,
badge.
yeah, absolutely. So the whole album is called 3016. And I guess that's my way of telling my dad thanks for telling me to get back out there.
Here I am
Um,
doing it.
yeah, and it's my way of saying I made you a promise. So, but yeah, that's it. I'm having the time of my life making music. Like I never even thought, bro, that I never thought that I would love making music as much as I do, which is the part that like is fucking me up tremendously right now. Like I just never imagined that I would be able to love music again, or that I would be able to love it in a way that I never did before. So I'm excited. I like I can't even I can't even tell you enough
And
That's
about
awesome.
how I'm doing. I have collaborations and songs with people that I would never in my life have imagined I would be working with. I feel like me now would burn any version of me that has existed before this one. I feel like I already put the natural in the ground 50 times over.
Really?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Wow,
But
well,
Alright, alright.
everyone has a problem when I come outside, bro. I'm gonna just say it like that. Like
well,
everyone's gonna have a problem when I come out. So, and that's cool. And it's not to be disrespectful, but it just feels good to feel that certain of what you're doing.
and we will
Wonderful.
definitely be keeping an ear out for that. There are rumors that you worked with the late Nipsey Hussle before his death on a song produced by Mr. Lee. Is that all
Yeah,
true?
yeah, yeah, that's true.
And
So
will we ever
shout
get
out
to hear it?
to shout out. Yo, yeah, definitely. I can't give it to you yet because like my whole squad is like, oh no one's getting that yet. But yeah, like I went to LA. I linked up with Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, for people who don't know, Mr. Lee did Blue Laces 2. He did a lot of the production on Victory Lap. He oversaw Victory Lap. Mr. Lee was very instrumental with Scarface and doing the Fix and all of Scarface's albums. Did a lot of work with Tupac and a lot of work with UGK and Pimp C and Bun B. And he's like a brother to me. And when we get together, it is always the most magical moments in the studio. So he was the bridge between me and Nip's family. And he just felt really strongly that I should do the song with Nip. And he played it for me one morning. I went to his house in Texas, and he just played it for me one morning, and he's like, I don't, like, this is what you should do. And I did it in like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and it happened so fast, I was just shocked, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't really even hit me that I did a song with bro until I got back to my hotel room and I rolled up and I was sitting on a balcony and I'm just looking at Texas and looking at the sky and it hit me while I'm listening to the song. I'm like, holy shit, I just did something with Nip. I would have never thought,
Gonna be big.
Yeah, so it's cool to have the song, and like I said, I got a lot of surprises.
Oh, wow.
I have a
Well,
lot of
Sounds like
surprises.
it.
who do
Yeah.
you listen to today's hip hop?
I listen to a little bit of everything. You mean like the younger dudes that are out now? Who do I listen to?
Yeah, today.
If
Yeah.
you do, if you listen to them.
I mean, I do. Yeah, like I love Lil Durk. Um, Shout out to him, and he's actually on the album. So I listen to Dirk a lot. I always been a Wayne fan. I listen to Lil Wayne. I love Drake. I love those two in terms of lyricism. I love J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, um,
How about the Griselda
Roddy
man?
Ricch. Oh, I listen to Griselda all day. Yeah, I just downloaded John Woo Flick. Yeah,
Oof,
so
that's
shout
amazing.
out to all three of them. Yeah, and actually we're in the process of trying to get our schedules together. Shout out to Conway. Me and Conway is supposed to be doing something soon. So I'm a big Griselda fan. Absolutely. I see a lot of my era in Griselda.
It's
Not
amazing.
only your era, I think your own album, you can hear it like in the production, in the lyrics. They're totally
Yeah,
like
they remind me a lot of how we was kids,
a
so
lot of it.
I'm a real big fan of them, real big fan of, and I'm just happy to see, because they're from Buffalo, and Buffalo, New York is a very, very hard place to get exposure. So for them to be able to get exposure and then to do what they're doing now, like, I salute them all day. I'm very big Griselda fan.
And it's
You know, but I listen to pretty much anything. You know, like I said, it never really changed for me. If I could listen to you and if I could appreciate something you did and if it could stick with me, I don't be caring who it is, bro.
and it's really I really like the diversity today because we got so many different kind of sounds and it's all
Yeah, you know, and like I said, like I know like the younger generation now just a lot of flack for you know things sounding the same and a lack of creativity and versatility, but there's a couple of them that you know there's a couple of them out there and I could be like, okay, there's still hope, you know.
No, there's obviously hope. There's a lot of good hip hop out, I think.
Yeah, there is, and I think now it's crazy because there's a new rapper like every 2 seconds now. You know, like I see rappers on Vivo that I didn't even know were signed. You know, and then it's just I think that's the hard part about now. It's very hard to follow all these different people rhyming. You know,
Nearly
Tal,
impossible.
Tal knows all of them.
it is impossible. It is impossible. Like I can't keep up with it. All I know is I might hear you and like what you said and be like, "Yo, who is that?" You know, and then my younger dudes, they'll put me on and be like, "Yo, that's such and such, or that's this one or that one." You know, and I'll give it a listen. All of it, I'll be honest, I can't dig all of it. But there's some that do make you say like, "Okay, it's cool. It's cool."
Tal, he really knows all of them. I mean, he's my go-to underground guy. When I want to know what's going on, that's the guy I'm going to.
Yeah. Like I said, it's mad at them. So to keep up with everything, it's like you know. But I like Mosey. I like Roddy Rich. I said Dirk and
Corday,
Corday. I think is incredibly talented. I think he's a breath of fresh air. I just saw something the other day by Corday, and I was like, yo, it's cool. His video ain't a bunch of it's not a whole bunch of guns. Yes, he just being a kid and he knows how to spit, and it was refreshing to see. So salute to him.
yep. Last subject I want to talk about, we have to, as Israelis, we can't ignore the Israeli connection.
Here you go.
uh, because you married to an Israeli and you actually have visited the country many times before.
Yeah, absolutely. I
How did
love
you
coming.
meet? What was it like for you here?
I'm married to the most awesome Israeli woman ever placed on the face of the earth.
Shout out to her. She helped us arrange it. So shout out to
My
her.
wife Shelly. Hey, babe. Yeah. So we've been married for close to 13 years, 14 years, close to it now. We have 3 boys. Um, Mike, Maddie, and Morgan. They're my whole world, just like their mom. It's weird. Like I don't think with us that any of that ever played a part in anything with us. I think it was just boy meets girl and girl meets boy, and the weird part, which is funny because I said it to my wife the other day. I said it's crazy that the person that was meant for you and that you were meant for grew up on the other side of the world. So I would have never imagined that the person that I get to spend all my life with, have my kids with, was all the way on the other side of the world. But she was, so I love her family like they're my family because they are. So shout out to Safta and Romy, Roni, Ronnie, Orly, and Dinden, and Lala, and who am I forgetting? Near, and at the kibbutz, and I'm forgetting a ton of people.
A
In what
kibbutz?
kibbutz?
I can't remember the name. I never remember the name, bro.
Don't get him in
Never
trouble.
do I remember the name. But my dad, well, Shelly's dad, that was my dad. Like, it's one of the things I'm most grateful for. Her dad and me, like, had a genuine love and respect for each other. You know, and their dad just passed away not too long ago. So,
Rest in
um,
peace.
yeah. So, shout out to Abba, to the Saba, you know, um, it hurt. It hurt a lot. But I'm very grateful that he had his daughter, that we have our family, and that we got to spend the time on this earth that we got to spend with each other. I adored her dad. And her dad actually was the first person that took me to Jerusalem. So the wall where you say a prayer and you put it in the wall, I did that with him. Um, he took me to the church where I think they say Christ, his cradle
Yeah, the
is in the
grave
Yeah.
church.
Yeah, so I went there with him. He was gonna take me by. I think he took me past Ramallah or by Ramallah, but we couldn't go that
Yeah,
day
he
because
can
it was.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, "Nah, you can't go." He's like, "Mike, we cannot
Could he
go.
probably
They'll
could.
do it." Blah, blah. Right. So he's telling me that, but yeah, that was like my second dad. So shout out to my dad, Yossi. I miss you. I love you. Um, take my whole world. But
That's the
yeah,
name of
I'm
my.
looking forward to coming back out there. I haven't been there, and now I think the last time we went was definitely before the pandemic. My wife went out there, you know, when things happened with my dad and stuff. She went out there, but I haven't gotten to go out there for a couple of years. But I definitely intend to go sometime this year in the summer. So when I do go, we gotta all link up, you
You
know,
got it.
Sure.
and sit down and
Sure.
go hang
Sure.
out.
For
You
sure.
know,
And
so I'll be there
Sure.
definitely.
we want to do a part two in the studio, maybe.
Yeah, I could do that. I'll definitely do that. When I get out there, I'll let you know. I'll let you guys know before I come out there, and then when I do get out there, we will most definitely do whatever you guys want to do, bro. Cool.
For sure.
Awesome.
I'm right here in
Awesome.
the middle of Tel Aviv. You're always welcome.
Oh, so you right in the city?
Yeah.
Let's turn up.
For sure. By the way, did you ever get to hear Israeli hip hop?
um, I heard some of it, but I didn't. I think what I got to hear, like, just me being a rapper, I know like there might be like mainstream people, but then they might not be the people that like they're like, yo, but you know who's lit? You gotta hear such and such. So I haven't heard enough of it to know who's who, what's what, and all of that. But I've definitely heard it. Yeah,
I'll hook you up if you want. I'll send
Yeah,
you some
Tomer
links.
is the guy for
yeah, I
that.
would love that. I would love that.
I gotcha.
I love that. Let's do it. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So, Mic Geronimo, thank you so much. It's
So
been
much, man.
really, it's
What
been
an
Nah,
honor,
fun.
you
man.
too, tease, man. Thank you for having me, bro. It's like this was cool. This was definitely cool, and like I said, it means the world to me because just from my family out there to see us, and I'm proud we're doing this. Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
And I want to thank Tsahai who helped us, Tsahai Hagos who helped us doing some of the research. And thank you, Tal Elefant.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Appreciate
thanks
it. I
to
appreciate it.
Gali Shah
And
who's also.
when the album gets closer, if I could send you guys stuff before the rest of the world gets it, I most certainly will.
We will love it, man. Thanks.
Love it. Yeah,
Nah, I got you, bro.
we
I
also do a
definitely got
radio.
you.
There will also be a radio version of this interview, that will also feature songs. So we'll wait
Okay.
with it until the album is closer to a release, and we'll do like a special show.
Well, I mean, what like they say from where I'm from, they say once you in, there ain't no way out. So we all in the same gang now. So ain't no way
Ah.
out of that
For sure.
one.
Mike Geronimo, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Y'all brothers be safe out there. again, shout out to everybody, my family out there, my friends out there. Peace, joy. I hope everybody's at one piece. Be safe with all this COVID shit going on. And I look forward to being back in Israel soon. I love y'all and thank you for the support.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Peace.
Salute, bro.
Salute.
Yeah.
אוקיי, חברים, בג'יגה ג'וס, מי שאיתנו כאן עדיין, תודה רבה רבה לכם. היה תענוג, תודה ענקי למייק ג'ורנימו, תודה לאשתו שלי. שוב אני רוצה להגיד תודה לצאי אגוס, שעזרה בתחקיר, תודה לגלי סער, שניהלה את כל העסק הזה בסושיאל בזמן שאנחנו היינו פה ברעיון. וטל אלפנט, תודה לך.
תודה רבה לך.
יאללה, אנחנו נשתמע עוד.
בפעם הבאה.
יאללה, פיס.